You, Jason and Heidi.
All right. Thank you very much, Brandon. We appreciate that. Appreciate all the work the planners have done to put this great conference together. Thank you to all of you for sticking it out to the second to last session, breakout session. We much appreciate that fact. So Jason and I don't mind talking to ourselves, but it's always better to engage with our colleagues from across the country. So much appreciated. I'm Heidi Blair. I'm the Director of Instructional Design and Technology at Regis University. And I'm here with my colleague, Jason.
Yes, hi, I'm Jason. I'm one of the instructional designers at Regis with Heidi's team. So we're glad to be here.
And we want to encourage you to provide a little bit of context about yourselves. So if you would use the rename feature, either in the participants panel or by hovering over your video, going to the three dots and selecting rename, and maybe either tell us what institution you're with or what role you have. We don't have time for full introductions, but that does provide us with some context when you're sharing an idea or you're sharing or asking a question. So thank you, Janine, one of our colleagues at Regis, much appreciated, and starting to see some others. So thank you for that. It really does make it more like a community. So I'm going to start sharing my session, my screen. And while I'm doing that, I want to share with you why we were even here, why Jason and I elected to talk about this topic. So the topic is video. Students are asking for it. Do you create it? You meaning faculty member, instructional designer, instructional technologist. I'm zooming ahead here and I apologize for that. Just trying, zooming ahead. But one of the reasons we really started exploring all the different options with video is because our provost had a student engagement initiative, began back in 2018. In 2019, we did a survey of our mostly online students, but we probably had some on-ground students that responded, and asked them really, how did they want faculty to engage with them during courses? And within that, they really identified three highly important aspects. One is they wanted to know who the instructor was. And so they wanted to know more about the instructor, have a sense of who they are as a human being. They wanted to have a sense that the faculty was present within the course. That it wasn't a correspondence course, that there was this person that was there, that they had knew who they were and had a sense of them caring about them. And they explicitly said they wanted more video. And so we wanted to meet these needs. I forgot to tell you a little bit about Regis. We are a small liberal arts college, Catholic Jesuit in Denver, Colorado. And one of our key values, our Jesuit values, is to think about the whole person. And so we knew that for them, it was important for them to have a sense of who our faculty were. We also wanted a sense of who they are. So how could we include video in a wide variety of ways other than maybe just YouTube videos and such? So we as a unit, instructional design and technology, started thinking about what can we do? How can we support faculty in this? And most importantly, how can we help faculty have small wins? So I like this picture that Jason picked out for us of the yoga. So, we can breathe and relax and feel comfortable with what we're doing and make it perhaps informal, but not have faculty stressing about the videos that they're going to create, which many of us don't like to be in video. So how can we help them? So that's really what brings us here to have this conversation with you. And we are going to share some ideas that we've come up with, that we've picked up along the way. But critical to this learning experience today is for you to feel comfortable sharing with us. So please feel free to do that in the chat and when we open the mic for questions. Probably you've been in this online conference for 3 days, so you don't really need to know the quick tips about Zoom, but I always like to provide these. And so just some ways that we're going to be using it, might be using the participants panel. So you might get comfortable with that. In chat, if somebody asks a question, please feel free to provide a response. We have some ideas, but you have lots of ideas. So feel free to have that chat as a conversation amongst all of us. And so appreciate that. So for the next 40 minutes, 45 minutes, what are we going to talk about? Well, we've already done our introductions. If you're just coming in, you'll see that people have listed their institution or their role beside their name. If you want to join us in that, we appreciate that. Important for the outcomes today is we're hoping that maybe you identify a few more, one more type of video that you could use in your own teaching or that you could support your colleagues in using. So we want to talk about different types of videos. And also, what are some creation tools? We have our toolkit here at Regis, but I'm sure you have additional tools. So we're going to have opportunities for sharing those tools as well. So that's what we want to accomplish today. If that's not what you want to hear about, you will not hurt our feelings if you decide to exit at this point. But that's what we're setting out to accomplish. We're going to do that by talking about what's the value of video. That's really important. What's the point of it anyway? I mentioned earlier from the Regis context that our students really wanted to know who their faculty member was. They wanted a sense of them as a human being. And in fact, they just explicitly said they wanted more video. But there's many other reasons that Jason's going to go through. We're going to explore some video types that we've identified and be eager to hear what you're saying. We have a little exercise with video scenarios and some additional resources that we have found to be helpful that we hope maybe might be helpful to you. And wrapping it up. And Jason, I just noticed that that's a present that's been wrapped, and that's really clever for the wrap up. So that's our agenda. Let's take off. And I was going to use the whiteboard in Zoom, and I forgot to check that out if we were going to have access to it, and we don't. So what I'd like you to do in the chat, if you would, is just tell us one thing that you've learned this past year. We've all had a lot of time to watch a video. What is one thing that you have learned from watching a video this past year? So let's quickly populate chat with a bunch of new learnings. Auto captions are really, really bad. Oh, they can be quite funny, Carrie, can't they? Need a blooper session of those. I love it. Fixing a leak in a pool. Quilt patterns. A Yule log. Oh, there's another baker. I think that's a baking response there. So quite a variety. And I would bet that these videos were of all different levels of production value. And I watched a presenter earlier this week who was talking about high production value. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about easy entry ways for faculty to create video and types of video, but that are all about supporting the learning and teaching going on within the courses. Great variety. Well, thank you for contributing to our community by letting us know what it is that you've learned in this year. So we want to dive into, you've seen value in it, obviously, because you've been learning through video. But what are some additional reasons for increasing the amount of engagement you plan for through video? So Jason, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thanks, Heidi. So I love the responses in chat. There's a lot of things going on there. Like get rid of a resident in Animal Crossing. That's pretty amazing. But to swing back here, so why create videos? So we've kind of put together this 21 reasons videos increase engagement in classrooms, and this was adapted from a website that I've found pretty helpful, and the links in the PowerPoint, which we're sharing a PDF of this with everyone. So as you can see, here's kind of the first, let's see, 5 or 6 reasons here. But basically, reason number 1, visuals are just processed faster. As a matter of fact, 60,000 times faster. So that's pretty impressive. But you can see from just all of these kinds of kind of this infographic here, there's just 7 pretty good reasons here. Like visuals are etched into our long-term memory, whereas words aren't. 80%, students retain 80% of what they learn. Learners just respond better to visual information. So just essentially like having visuals in class or in your classes helps. So not just images, but now we're talking actual videos and things like that. So we'll go on to the next one here, which just kind of covers some more pieces here. But this is all just essentially, from what we found, pretty valuable information as far as like why videos would be more proficient, including increasing interaction. Students got 1 letter grade higher than students in low interaction courses. I think that's pretty significant when we're just talking about performance and retention and student success and all of that. A big piece for me, being an instructional designer, is to try and create dynamic interactive classes because of the fact that higher interaction equals higher success. Videos with things like quizzes in them cut mind wandering by half. So these are all very important aspects as far as, when we're working with faculty here at Regis and we want to encourage the use of video, we speak to a lot of these items because we want the students to be engaged, we want them to interact, and we want them to kind of, as Heidi mentioned, have some sort of connection with their instructors, which is reason 10 there. Talking head videos encourage students to try more quiz questions, and compared to ones without webcams, they just want to have this interactive piece and see people, especially being that, being remote learning in kind of virtual environments can feel isolating. So I think that's a big piece to that too. So, and then kind of the, sorry. Go.
Yeah, I just wanted to call out, I'm seeing in chat that several people are Kaltura users, and as we go and try to increase video and engagement, we were looking for tools of how do we do video quizzes, and we've just recently implemented a new, deeper, broader LTI called the Kaltura Application Framework within D2L, which is our LMS, and it has video quizzes in it that faculty can create. Now they have access to that, but we're going to go further with that and then connect that to the gradebook. We also use a tool internally to ID&T called H5P. And H5P has the capability to make videos that have quizzes within them. So as we're exploring faculty making videos and feeling more comfortable for that, we're also trying to expand that and say not just the videos, but how do we put interactivity within a video. If anybody is using video quiz tools, maybe you'll toss some information into the chat about your experiences with that. Thank you, Jason.
Yeah, no, I noticed that too, which I thought was fantastic, because a lot of the types of videos we'll talk about, I think Kaltura is an amazing tool, from just creating really a simple video to something maybe that has some editing that needs to happen. But from an accessibility standpoint, I think the feature for speech to text and things like that and closed captioning, it seems to be more user friendly. So I've found that it's a great tool for that, and I think that's highly important and effective in that sense. But the next slide basically just covers the kind of next 7 reasons why video is effective and increases engagement. But I think this is all kind of speaking to the same thing. Students want it, they prefer it, and it's effective. Especially when videos are short. And I think that's something we're going to talk about next. There might be a misconception when faculty think they need to create videos. I attended a session earlier in the week, and the person kind of facilitating that had mentioned that faculty come to him with these long 60-minute lectures, and he emphasized breaking it up. And I think that that's kind of maybe a misconception where that might be a reason why people aren't recording video in their classes, is because it's inundating process to record a 60-minute presentation or whatever. And then also the fear of having to possibly edit that and things of that nature. But in reality, shorter videos are better. And so if you have longer video sessions like that, it's important to keep them anywhere from 7 to 14 minutes. And even that's probably long in terms of what is ideal. So with that being said, we'll kind of jump into the kind of next activity that we had planned, which is why do you guys what does everyone here feel that it's worth taking time to create videos? So if you want to go ahead and post in the chat your brief response for that, as far as your personal take on this. I think everyone has kind of touched on this a little bit, or at least their personal experiences, but in terms of Kaltura and all of that. But basically, just kind of your personal take on why it would be worth taking time to create videos.
Brandon, the moderator, would it be possible, is there a way for us to share this chat, or maybe can each individual save the chat at the end if they want these resources? Is that enabled for the participants, save chat?
Yeah, people should be able to save the chat. And if not, we are saving the chat. How we're going to distribute that is kind of up in the air, but I've written a script to download all of the video, the transcript, as well as the chat files. So those should be hopefully available with our recordings. We still have to kind of figure that out after the conference, but yes, it is available.
Great. So, I'm seeing some interesting comments, and I agree with you. Someone was saying not totally sold on creating my own videos. And that's why we're going to talk about a lot of different types of videos, because students do want to see the experts. They want to see the instructors, the facilitators, whatever the term you call. And so we're going to talk about it, and we'll just jump into that now. What are a wide variety of types of video, not just content videos? Those are important, but what are some other types of videos? So thank you for sharing your skepticism in there. That's what these conversations are about, to explore different areas, and lots of good ideas coming in here, and also your thoughts and philosophy about videos. So I look forward to being able to read those once we have access to the chat, or I download it myself. So thank you for getting that prepared, Brandon. Jason, do you have anything else before we move forward?
No, but I was noticing the same, comments as far as, are all videos effective? And I think it really comes down to the types that we're going to talk about. And to be honest, there are some elements of videos that would probably be determine whether it's effective or not. But I think it comes down to the type of video and what the intent is, because just recording yourself talking isn't necessarily going to be effective. It depends on a lot of variables. So I think as we talk about the types, hopefully it'll shed some light on that. But video isn't always for everybody. It really just depends on the situation. So I think as we jump into those types, we can kind of maybe hopefully shed some light on that. Again, maybe there's some misconceptions on what a video it has to be, or what kind of type it needs to be, or anything like that. So the types of video that we're going to explore today, as efficiently as possible, are going to be content delivery. So in that, there's kind of categories of micro video lectures, narrated presentations, and demonstrations. Those seem to be the kind of most common content delivery videos in terms of what would be effective in classrooms. Announcement videos, introductions, course overview, feedback, provisions, and assessment videos. And again, all of these can be tucked into videos. So maybe feedback wasn't something you did before, but when we look at, that students retain more information visually and audibly, sometimes that might be something to consider after we cover that particular piece. So the first piece here is micro lectures. And this is what we talk about when we want, to encourage faculty or anyone using videos to keep them short. This seems to be kind of the best modality to do this. They're 1 to 3 minutes usually, more so around the 1 minute length, and that hence the term micro. They focus on usually a single kind of narrow topic. So when you just want to kind of quickly overview something, do a kind of quick introduction in your class, or if it's even something that where you're delivering a topic, you would just quickly kind of cover that with a nice introduction and closing piece, and then you would close it out. These don't really have a lot of interactivity per se because they're micro videos, but they're just kind of there to present a bit of information, engage a learner. A lot of people with kind of these short-term attention spans nowadays, with all of the media that's accessible through Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and all of those different platforms. I mean, people are just getting chunks of information. So that's why this fits with that kind of appeal in that sense. And these have a low cognitive load, which is the most important piece there when we're talking about like the difference between like a training, like a corporate training, and an academic setting. You want to keep the cognitive load lower in these kinds of academic settings, which is why a micro video is really effective in that sense. So, instances when you would use these are when you would want to teach, again, like a simple concept in a few steps. If you wanted to do more complicated concepts, that's fine. It's just they're micro videos. So you would kind of create a series of videos in that sense, and then they would watch them kind of as chapters, so to speak. And then you get better engagement from your audience with these, with similar outcomes as you would a lot of other deliverables or methods, because of the kind of shortness in term of the video. And then you want more control over the pace of learning, because you can kind of separate these out into your weekly activities, or however you'd like to kind of create these. You could load up all these micro videos in kind of one space in the class, and students watch them at their own pace, or you can kind of throw them out each week. But it just makes the content easier to consume because again, they're micro. So the next one, well, I guess before we move on, does anyone have a question about that piece, about micro videos or anything related to those?
Not seeing any hands raised.
All right. Perfect. So the next kind of type of video that I'll be talking about are the kind of narrated presentations. These are kind of probably what many people are more familiar with, or even presume what it is a video, or maybe what they're supposed to do, but this is an option. And these are typically going to be utilized more in the sense of you want to create more of a traditional, maybe lecture, where you have like a PowerPoint and you've kind of recorded yourself speaking over that, and you want to kind of cover more of a complex topic. These are certainly an option as well. But obviously these are different than micro videos because they're going to be longer. They're typically a PowerPoint or some sort of kind of screen sharing that you've done, where you kind of recorded some sort of not demonstration, but maybe some sort of topic or visual alongside with your speaking. A micro video doesn't always allow for that kind of piece. But these can be as simple as recording an audio over a presentation, or even more advanced, where you would record the PowerPoint, or you'd make the PowerPoint, you would narrate over it, maybe with a separate microphone, create transitional videos with it, things of that nature. But typically it's just as simple as recording over a PowerPoint. But these typically are going to be, like I said, more utilized for conveying instructional content that's distributed to or to students that are distributed environments. So what these benefit, in terms of the benefit this provides, would be you can make one kind of narrated presentation, record it, and put it in many different places at once, where students can kind of rewatch as many times as they need. Whereas a micro video might be more specifically necessary for that particular topic or session, which is why this is emphasizing the need to be in many places at once. If you perhaps are facilitating multiple kind of sections of a course at one time, maybe it's the same course like Psych 101 or something, but you have many different kind of overlapping start dates. This is a really proficient way to distribute that information across many different platforms in that sense. And again, these are more beneficial for in-depth subject matter. The next video that I was going to talk about is demonstrations. And these are, again, anywhere kind of in between, but a lot of times this is actual recording of some sort of task that you're doing, whether it's recording your screen, doing some sort of coding or programming, or whether it's recording yourself completing a physical assessment if it's a nursing scenario, things like that. These usually range from anywhere from short little micro videos to longer, like 10-minute videos. But again, I wouldn't say going over 10 minutes. Otherwise, you'd want to break it up and include breaks and things like that, because again, it's that short kind of attention span, and people will tend to wander off if they're longer than that. Or if there's not any engagement or activity where you have a quiz kind of in the middle that's breaking up that kind of video. But these demonstrations can tend to be a little bit more formal. I mean, you'd want to have maybe appropriate considerations for lighting, audio, and things of that nature, just to be sure that when the video is delivered, that it's high quality and there's not a lot of like audio problems or things like that. But typically these are screencasts where you're recording your screen, as I mentioned before, maybe going through some coding, or maybe you have a spreadsheet in a class that you need to go through some sort of Excel formula. You would actually be recording yourself going through that formula and demonstrating it and modeling that particular behavior. So this allows you to leverage multiple methods of instruction, as opposed to, again, the other two are kind of just one way or the other. So these are, when to use these for anything really. There's no hard or fast rules for these, but just, again, keep in mind the length. And really what it comes down to is evaluating with these types of videos, is the topic or process best taught through kind of modeling or video, or could it be done just through a set of written instruction? But again, if we look at the information we talked about previously as to the benefits of video and why it helps engagement, I would say, when in doubt, maybe try and shoot for a video unless it can be done in just a few simple written instructions. But again, these are very, very great tools for how-tos and actually modeling, certain tasks. And then video announcements. I think, Heidi, you were going to take this.
The cardinal sin of starting to talk when the mute is you're still muted. Sorry about that. So thank you, Jason. And content is extremely important, but as some people were pointing out in the chat, content can be that it's already created, it's already out there, and certainly don't reinvent the wheel if it's there. But if you want to contextualize that content for your particular institution, program, major, and such, creating those types of videos is quite helpful. Now we're going to look at some alternatives to content videos. So how else can you be present in your courses and establish connections with students? One is through video announcements. Now, many LMSs have some function, some tool built in. So for example, in D2L, there's video note. So you can create short, on the spot with your webcam, informal videos. And what we're talking about here with these announcements videos is how do you bring students into the content for the week? Maybe you traditionally post an announcement on Sundays or on Fridays, and you want to welcome them into that topic. You want to make a connection with them to your professional experience. You want to mention perhaps a current event. So perhaps because you're talking about the week in the course and you're talking about a current event, you don't want to do a high production value because you're not going to be able to use it in the next term. So you're going to want to use a tool that's easy. One way you can do these is with your phone. So simply record your phone. When I was at Arizona State University, there was a faculty member who would each week go someplace else in her yard or in her house and just do an informal, here's what we're going to talk about this week, and some connection, some hook to that. So these are informal videos, not high production value. You do want to be cognizant of audio. Audio is always a concern with video, really. But these are sort of on the fly, informal conversational videos that you would post using an announcement tool that might be within your LMS. Easy entry point. No, you want to take notes about what you want to talk about, but there's no scripting, there's no PowerPoint you have to make. You really are trying to connect with the student. So this is one technique that is a good way for faculty to enter into video and to get themselves comfortable with video, but also maybe to say to students, hey, this is a way we can communicate in this online class. It's not going to be all about writing, which for many of us is not our optimal communication method. And so it sort of signals to students that there are alternatives in ways that we can share our understandings and be a part of the learning community. So video announcements is one of those alternatives. Another alternative, we're not going to take the time to show these videos, but we wanted to include them because it's really important. While I have an attendant appointment as an associate professor, I don't teach. And so I think it's really important that we let you hear the voice of faculty. So this is one of our faculty members. She's an affiliate adjunct faculty member talking about how she uses announcements. So that you have the link in the presentation that has been, the URL has been put into the chat. I encourage you to hear from your peers what they're thinking about in terms of video announcements. So we appreciate Sasha's willingness to allow us to share that example. Another sort of alternative video is introductions, and many of us have introductions in our online courses, and it's a discussion forum chat, and we go through it, and maybe often our students already have one written out and they copy and paste it into the discussion forum. So this is the idea that rather than just being text-based, and when we're getting to know people and that sense of social presence, if you're familiar with the community of inquiry, that sense of social presence that we can establish through video, introduction videos are a great way to do this. So both for your students to create them and for yourself. Again, these can be higher production if you want, but if you want to model for students, students are not going to be doing high production introduction videos. They're going to be using tools built into the LMS. They're going to be using their phone. They're going to be using Zoom to capture it. So you could model that yourself as sort of a informal production. We also have a tool at Regis called VoiceThread that is growing in terms of its usage for introductions, because not only can you provide the video introduction, but students can provide, and you can provide video, audio commentary on those videos. So thinking about that, we're all going to do introductions anyway. Why not have that as a way to bring yourself into the course and allow students, just as importantly as you, the faculty member coming into the course, is the student being able to present themselves in the course. Always being conscious that some people don't want to do video for a variety of reasons. So particularly on the introductions, you might want to make it optional that they could do video and or text-based, being conscious of individual needs and such. So that's another sort of alternative way of stepping into video. Again, an example that we might share, but you might want to come back to it later on our Faculty Insights page on our website. You can find some examples.
Hey Heidi, if I can
Yes.
jump in real quick, Carrie posted something in chat about if having students do intros, how do we make sure they're accessible to the rest of the class? I think that the voice thread tool you mentioned is amazing for that because it actually just kind of incorporates that. Everyone can kind of see each person's post and video and introduction, and it's built to be a threaded kind of video chat, so to speak. But I think it would depend on the LMS too. I know in D2L or World Class that we use, when a student goes to post a video note, it would just appear within the discussion thread for everyone.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
ADA,
they're both closed captions. So that's, if you're
yes,
talking about accessible, oh, I see. So in terms of ADA, so VoiceThread automatically closed captions all videos in audio. In
mhm,
our LMS, that easy embedded tool is called Video Note, as Jason mentioned, and it has audio captions by multiple languages. So yes, please be considered. Audio captions being terrible. You can, in Video Note, you can turn editing on. So you can go in and the individual can edit the captions. In VoiceThread, I'll have to look to see what the editing options are for that. With your concerns with that, you might say record your videos on your phone, upload them into Kaltura, where you can edit your captions, into YouTube, where you can edit the captions, and then talk to your students about being good citizens, learning community citizens, so that they would take the time to edit the captions. And perhaps even that's a part of the assignment, is that they take the time to edit the captions. So good points on all those, and being cognizant of the needs of our wide variety of learners. So thank you for bringing that up, Carrie, and thank you, Jason, for calling my attention to that. So course overviews, I think, is a basic video type that could be high production. You could do them in a one button studio. I think we saw somebody from Penn State, so the Penn State's famous one button studio. Perhaps if our Penn State person is still there, you could tell us if it truly is one button, from those of us who are too poor to use it. But so it could be high production, or it could be something that you're doing in Zoom. Zoom has a new feature where you can have the PowerPoint behind you and you're down in the corner in a video. That's in the advanced settings for screen share. So maybe you want to use your PowerPoint that way because you don't have a studio where you can stand in front of your slides or such. But really important to help students understand what's coming up in the course. It welcomes them to the course. It provides that context. Maybe you take them on the demonstration, as Jason mentioned, and you navigate through the course so they can see what it's going to look like, and you're actually the tour guide of that. You point out along the way, here's some spots that might cause concern or trouble, and here's some helpful hints, all the way from navigation to time management. So it could be, again, it could be high production value because you might use it multiple times. But I don't know about you, but often after I teach a course, I then go in and modify the course. So I need to do a new course overview anyway, because I've listened to what my students have said and I've made those modifications. So I might not be able to reuse it. But not to forget about the course overview again, and then they get to see you, see the instructor, and have that sense of who you are. The last one I'm going to touch on, and I think we're seeing an increase in the use of video feedback as tools start to become easier and more integrated within content. I first used video audio feedback way back when I taught in 2006. And I would make a video by capturing my PowerPoint and narrating along with that about the feedback on particular assignments. So there's many tools, and within your LMS, if right now maybe you could put into the chat what tool within your LMS you use to provide video feedback, turn it in is one that goes across learning management systems, and it has video feedback as an option within it, as do most LMS as a separate piece. So this idea that you're having a conversation almost with the person when you're providing that video feedback, and they can see you, they can see the expression on your face, they can understand more about that piece of feedback that you're providing. Also, you could use tools such as VoiceThread, but there's lots of others where you want to have the feedback specifically at a point in a video that they've created. And so you're doing video feedback on video, but I think it's more and more coming about as technologies improve in that area. So that's the last one I really was going to talk about in terms of these alternatives from content provision. What are these other sort of entry points in? And Jason's going to wrap us up with talking about, oh, I'm sorry. This is another video we have. This faculty member, David, it talks about using video feedback. Jason, I know we're running close to out of time, so I wanted to let you talk about assessments, video with assessments.
Yeah, I'll be pretty brief as I can, but video assessment, I think, is a wonderful option with respect to video types that I think can transform the way learning happens, and just not like presentation videos or content videos, but when you're trying to assess performance, video is a great alternative. One thing that I found really intriguing is the use of video quizzes. I think that these are a fascinating way to engage students even further if you are doing some sort of video, content driven video where it's maybe a demonstration. You can have a quiz built into that based on something that you demonstrated or modeled. For example, if you are doing demonstration on coding or programming, you can integrate a quiz in that respect and then keep the video going. Video assessments are amazing when you need to assess soft skills that are not just something that you can maybe quiz. So in a nursing capacity, you can assess someone's bedside manner, when they're working with a patient and things like that. It speeds up grading, and it can accommodate different learning styles. So that's one thing to consider when using video. Again, it doesn't always have to be content driven. Like Heidi mentioned, there's all of these other options. And I think assessments is a really effective way to utilize videos as well, whether it's having students themselves do presentations, because that's a more kind of real world application. I haven't written a lot of papers as a professional, but I've done a lot of presentations. So that's one way to assess certain skills in that sense. So any questions on that piece from anybody?
Or
and again,
any additional types of videos. I'm sorry, Jason, go ahead.
I was just going to say, again, a tool like Kaltura that we use at Regis, and it has a video quiz kind of integrated into it, or the capacity, and then the HB5s you mentioned. So, it depends on your institution and what you're doing, but I would definitely look into the options of whatever, tools you guys use to be allowed to do that. But I know Kaltura is a wonderful tool for things like that. But sorry, go ahead, Heidi.
Sure. Are there any other types of videos that you would name that you have found helpful, or that you've read about, or that you're curious about from the ones, in addition to the ones that we've mentioned? But if you want to speak, you can raise your hand at this point, and we could give the microphone over to you if you want to share another type of video. No pressure. All right, well, seeing no hands, and I will guarantee, I'll tell you that wait time is one of the hardest things for me in online learning. So if you come up with an idea you want to share, please raise your hand and we'll come back to you. So really, all these different ways to engage and step into the use of video to increase presence, to increase that sense that you're there. And then the idea is, what is your toolkit? So I see that Oregon State University has raised their hand. So Oregon State.
Hi there, can you hear me?
We can.
Hi, yeah, so I help faculty in our Faculty Media Center within the Academic Technology Department at OSU. And one of the things that we really like to encourage faculty to try is doing homework helpers or just-in-time teaching.
Ah,
If you find that your students are struggling, you gave them an assignment, maybe they didn't get it, they didn't like understand the directions, or they simply didn't perform the way you wanted them to. You can do these just-in-time 1 or 2 minute videos where you either work a problem, if it's problem-based learning, or explain once again what you're looking for, whatever it is, but it's just a quick thing that you can address the whole class and put it in your announcements, discussions, wherever you want to put it. But I like that idea of sort of having, you can also use video quizzing for sort of formative assessments as you go through and informative feedback.
Great, thank you for sharing that. I like that idea of the just-in-time homework helpers.
Yeah.
And I know that we have in our math department of our traditional college, we have quite a few that do the worked problems of videos. So that has been a helpful technique for them. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, and of course you can reuse them if every term your students struggle with, a certain concept, you can certainly reuse the assets. So yeah.
So what we provided here quickly is our summary matrix. So everybody has their own toolkits. This is our basic video toolkit that we have up at the top at Regis. And on the side, we put what these different types of videos we mentioned. And what you notice is there's no video studio on here. These are all pretty basic. There's also no video editing. We're not talking about post-production. You can do some very basic post-production in Kaltura, which we have, which probably should be up here because that's our hosting service. But really we're talking about low entry, easy, relaxed kinds of tools and the ways that they do that, those are usable to support the different types of video. What we wanted to do is a quick activity, and we will shorten this just to one scenario. So if quickly, Brandon, you could put the link to Padlet into the chat, that would be great. We came up with 2 scenarios. And the first scenario you'll see here, you can either use the QR code, or I believe he's going to put the chat, and he has, to the Padlet. So this first one, basic class, you can read it here, but you want students to stay engaged. Additionally, you teach multiple sessions. So really what we want you to think of is, with this scenario, what type of video would you think is best from the ones we've looked at, or one that you know, and what kinds of tools would you use? Now, we created a basic Padlet simply because if you're going to be sharing ideas, we wanted you to be able to take those ideas home with you. So if you're not familiar with Padlet, like we would go to scenario 1, this is that, and it's repeated right up here, is what type of video would you create? Type that in. So type of video, what tools would you use? And then you can just leave that there. And I see some people have already started. That's fabulous. You can like these, and you also can add comments to them. So this is just a quick way to get you to think about this first scenario up here. And let's just take, whoop, we're about out of time. I would encourage you maybe to look at this later. You have the links within the embedded within the PowerPoint. You can go into those, but we just wanted to give you a chance to apply what we've been talking about into different contexts and to learn from one another with the tools. So we have provided some additional resources here, so that if this is a topic you want to dive into a bit more, these are some resources that we have found helpful. And we want to thank you. Thank you so very much. We know it's the end of the conference, the end of the week. Jason and I appreciate you coming in and being such active participants too, and sharing, and we'll get that information back to you. We're on for a few more minutes. So if you have a question that you want to ask Jason and myself, would be glad to answer those. Brandon, and you want them to fill out the the conference evaluation, correct?
Yes, please. I just threw that link in chat. If you get a chance, the evaluation is on the schedule, but it's also in chat for you right now. We have a little bit of wiggle room here, so if there are any more questions, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.